You are watching the video version of the Marketing Should Be Fun podcast. We are so glad that you are here. If you prefer to listen to podcasts, you can find the Marketing Should Be Fun show on any of your favorite podcast platforms, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere else. But most of all, we're so glad you're here, and I hope that you enjoy today's conversation. Well, welcome back to another episode of Marketing Should Be Fun. My name is Austin Savage. I am the founder of Savage Content Collective, and I'm here with my good friend, Kelsey Zarko, who is the founder of Curate Social. Every time I say that, I'm like, let's just reintroduce ourselves to each other. We're just two founders. It's how fun.
Okay,
it's so nice to meet you.
I thought of this the other day because you say it every time. Do you know that it's actually not called Curate Social? It's just called Curate.
Kelsey,
my website is Curate Social, and so I kind of like that it sounds that way. And it's not that it's not called that. I'm just like, I wonder if he knows that it's just called Curate.
Okay, literally, we have had how many episodes of this podcast,
like,
and then how many conversations as friends, and you just let me fail?
I don't know that I was letting you fail. I was like, I kind of think it makes it make more sense when you call it Curate Social. If this is not a precursor to the episode, everyone just
oh my
up.
Gosh. Wow. I don't even know how to feel right now. Part of me feels betrayed. The other part of me feels like I helped you, improve your brand. The other part
this
of me,
is a safe place for your feelings, and I receive them and apologize for any betrayal.
Thank you. I apologize for saying the wrong name. I literally have thought that for years.
When you say it, I'm always like, it makes more sense. I'm just going to let it happen.
That is so funny. Our company name wrong a lot because Savage Content Collective, but we shorten it to Savage Content Co. And so a lot of people call us Savage Content Company or something like that.
Yeah.
So
back in the day, the vintage Austin Savage and Co.
It was Austin Savage and Company back in the day. So
I
it
remember.
Makes sense why.
We renamed it together.
We did. We did. I'll never forget.
What a time.
Kelsey, what's our this or that for today so that we can get ourselves back on track here?
I'm so pumped for this question. Okay, so kind of we'll get into this later, but the theme of our episode is like not everything has to be so structured and, linear and strategic all the time. So we're just going to have a real random this or that. And I'm
ready.
So excited. Okay. If you had to wear a mismatched pair of socks for the rest of your life, would you rather they be different textures or different lengths?
Oh my gosh.
Are you so proud of me?
That is a fascinating question.
Well,
I mean, there truly is only one right answer, and it has to be the one that you're going to say as well.
I think we're going to be the same on this one, knowing
because
us and our sensory issues.
Way too. Yeah, I was going to say we have way too many sensory issues between us. Absolutely different lengths. You have versatility. You can cover it, of course, with long pants if you needed to. And you know what? I work from home every day, so nobody's going to see my socks anyways. Sure. So, all of those things, I think they'd have to be the same texture or else I would literally go insane. So
totally agree. I love that you took it too from like an image perspective of what people would think of how your socks looked. I was like, the height of them would still bother me on how they felt, but I would have the control over folding them. You can adjust that. I can adjust the texture. I would just go out of my mind.
Yes.
With different feels on my feet. So anyway, I agree. The sensory nature of our personalities would only allow for one answer.
So I've been in a boot recently. We mentioned that I broke my leg in a previous episode, but I'm almost out of it. 2 more weeks from today-ish. Okay. But I've had that feeling because I'm wearing a sock on one foot, but not a sock on the other. And it's like so strange. I feel like I feel like my brain has had to become grittier, and it's like we can push through hard things.
Yes. You're and the hard thing is brain just energy it feels on that.
Different.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We spend so much extra time on Thursday mornings with my son he only has PE on Thursdays. Oh. And so the other days he can get away with just wearing Crocs with no socks. But the days we have to put socks on, oh my goodness, has to be adjusted. I need to find those seamless socks that I get ads for them all the time now. But I'm like, I was not prepared to pass on my sensory issues to my children so early in life.
Yeah, that's so hard with shoes too. Like, I feel like my kids will like randomly, they'll decide like these shoes are so uncomfortable. And then like having to convince them, especially with their school, like they have to wear tennis shoes every day. And so it's like, I'm sorry, like you have no other shoes.
It's the rules.
Today, at least, like we can try to find different ones, but it's so sad to watch. I feel like.
I know. It's a real thing. Doesn't go away in your 30s. Sorry, y'all.
maybe 40s. Maybe that's when it'll change for us.
I'll let you know since I will get there first.
You'll get there first. Yep. And that's fine with me. So
me too.
Okay. Kelsey, I'm very excited for our topic today. The question that I have to bring to you, because it's one that I've been thinking about with our clients, not in the sense of like strategy and adjusting it on, how we approach marketing, but specifically, like I've been thinking of just how to communicate kind of our answer, at least to this question to clients. And so I'm very excited to hear kind of how you've been thinking about this. So my question for you today to start our conversation is, how are you thinking about the balance in your clients' content between personal content and like promotional content? And I think for like all of our listeners, like that's a common challenge. It's like, okay, I need to be promoting my product. And the things that we're often thinking of is like, I have this deal going on. I have this coupon code that you could use. I have a Mother's Day sale. I have, whatever it is. Yeah. And then on the other side, we have like, oh, my kid just graduated from kindergarten. I just went to my favorite restaurant for like the 100th time, or like, like there's all these just like different things that we can kind of create content about, and they both give us benefit. But how are you finding that balance for your clients and communicating it?
I love this question. I think we could talk about it for a very long time. We will try to keep it succinct. If we kind of like scroll back a little and zoom out, I just think that first of all, I would encourage our listeners to kind of ask yourself, which one do you lean more toward? Like we certainly have had clients where they would just want to promote their product all the time. And it feels scary or vulnerable or uncomfortable, or they just don't trust the process of it to allow some of that more personal side of content in. Or equally, maybe not equally, but I certainly have had other clients who are so wanting to be like, they don't want to be salesy. And so they almost lean way more to the personal side and don't want to directly promote their content and their product or brand or whatever it is. And so both of those things I would say are just extremes. And which side do you fall on, and where do you need to take the step to come toward the middle would be my first question. Because it's just as much a problem to not promote your product and leave people. We've had an episode about this before of like, you have to clearly explain how people can buy what you're selling or they will not do it. But then as far as like how I'm thinking about that, I think that Instagram, we know that's kind of like my main world that I live in, is a little bit of a masterclass on like why personal content matters to brands in general. I mean, 10 years ago, we were like posting our random pictures of a train in Chicago with our whatever filter we put on it. There was no thought of like business. It was just like, this is where I post my random artsy pictures and it's a little diary. And now you see there is no company really that's not on Instagram. Everybody understands the value of promoting a brand on a platform where humans are connecting and coming for entertainment and meaning and all of those things. So we see the value, and companies see the value of, I can be more effective with my message when I layer humanity into it. So that's, I guess, my philosophy standpoint.
Yeah.
How I'm thinking about it is a few different ways. There is certainly the two different types of posts. Like, here's my kid's kindergarten graduation. Here's the sale going on. And then I think more often than not lately, I'm thinking of how do I bring both of those things into one post or into one piece of content. I had a friend over for dinner last night who just happens to also be a client. She writes Bible studies and like has a product she sells. And she was telling me about how it's so important to her when she creates a new product that she has these symbols she puts on like each title, and it kind of like signifies the whole topic of the book. And I was like, I didn't even know that. I'm like, will you please take a picture and write a post about that? And so to me, that's a little bit of like melding the two, where she is promoting her product. It's right there in front of people. But what she's really doing is sharing like, this is important to me and here's my process for it. And so I guess maybe that's like an example of melding the two together. And then at the same time, I think the way that you can bring those together is also just the voice you bring. Like we have clients who they do the same thing as 100,000 other people out there. How do you bring your personal conviction, your personal voice, your personal edge to it so that your personality is overlaying the product you have? And then when I go to pick where I'm going to buy that product, I'm going to pick the person who I most relate to personally. So that's a lot of words that just came to my mind. Would love for you to respond.
Those are all very good words and all made very good sense. I love you actually took that question in a different direction than I thought you would.
Okay.
And I love the idea of those two things not always being separate. And I think that that's something that we don't give enough thought to as like it just collectively, you know, as brand owners or leaders and entrepreneurs. Like I think that we don't think often enough of how we can bring kind of the humanization to our offers and to what we do or the actions that we want people to take, especially in the for-profit world. I feel like I think that that's very interesting because like there's such a natural way that we can promote our products in a way that doesn't feel salesy, which, you know, you were just kind of walking us through. And it's such a great way to accomplish both at the same time. And I love that example for your client of like, oh, there's that detail that like really only she knows about and only knows like other people maybe have noticed those symbols, but it's like, you know, there might not be understanding on like why it's there, how it's developed, how it's chosen, those kinds of things. And when we can bring people into that process and just like our thinking about it and what like it feels like to us, what it means to us, now all of a sudden we have created kind of this bridge of connection while we're talking about our product. And I mean, I think that is something that we can carry over to every single industry. You know, like if you're someone who does hair for a living, you know, there's so many ways that you can like lean into like what you love about it, something that you've learned recently, you know, a new tool that you've had to do it better. You know, it's like, and then we go over to any other industry and there's like so many aspects of that we can lean into. So that was very interesting because I figured that you would kind of have a system on like, well, actually I'm thinking about it this way of like 3 times a week I'm posting this and then like, you know, once a week I'm posting this, but I love that it is more organic in that sense.
Yeah. I do think too, it probably depends a little bit on the type of client you have as does most decisions you make for a client. Yeah. A lot of my specific clients are specifically growing on Instagram and they are more of like a personal solopreneur. Like they are the brand. So I have to bring personal content in or it just won't make sense. But a great example of this, even on a post, like this is a client I used to work on with you when I worked with you. They're still a client of yours. I was scrolling and like, I scroll past content all day long. It's literally my job. I don't stop on everything. And I stopped on this post because I was like, oh, there's their faces. I know those guys. And we don't use their photos a lot. So even to just bring your own face or your own person into pieces of content, like I hope our listeners will just be like comforted and reminded that it doesn't mean you have to like go be hilarious and over the top with humor or dancing or, you know, something that feels not true to you. You can bring your humanity into your content. We say this all the time in a way that feels right to you, that feels authentic to you. And sometimes that's just like, here's my face. And the difference that makes, I pull up analytics and tell clients all the time, do you see your top posts? Your face is in them.
Exactly.
I need you to be in your content because we say it. It's like literally the motto of your brand, like content performs on a human level. And when there's not a human there to connect with, it's not going to perform on a human level.
Yeah. Yeah. In a recent episode, I forget if it was last one or 2 episodes ago, but I mentioned an example from our work with a couple Dairy Queen locations. And just recently, we were comparing some post performance for the recent location launch that we did. And we saw like the most drastic difference between content that featured their team or their people and content that just featured like their product, like a blizzard or, you know, something like that. Yep. Literally, like if it was a fancy, like beautiful looking graphic, so appetizing, like of a blizzard, we got like, it had like 7 likes, you know, like it was like, which is fine, you know, like
you're starting up from ground zero. That's 7 people.
Yes, totally. When we shared a photo of like them and their family and we're like, it was like paired with a little letter that was like, hey, we're so excited to serve this community. literally like 300 likes, 24 shares, 30 comments. And we did another one that was like a photo of their team that was like, meet the management of this new location. Same thing, like 260 likes, 30 comments, and 20 shares or something. Wow. And I mean, it was just such a drastic difference. And I think it's such a great example because it's not always that drastic for every brand, but it is very consistent that like, even if you're talking about your product, which we were in that case, like we were talking about like, come to our restaurant when we open, but like doing it in a human-centered way is going to connect so much better with the people that you're trying to reach. And I think is a good principle to go after.
It reminds me of like two different things come to mind there. The first one is just the reminder of like, and you agree with this too, I know you will, just because that post only got 7 likes doesn't mean that you should throw that content pillar out, because what's happening all the time, we talk about it, silent supporters, like they are still scrolling and seeing that post. It just isn't compelling them to connect with it in the same way. It doesn't maybe stop their scroll. They're not going to hit the button, but they're like, oh, ice cream. Oh, that hair thing. Oh, this electrician company. Like those things still matter because you're building that loop in their mind of this is who they are. This is what they do. They keep showing up. I have clients all the time who are like, oh, they came and booked and they told me they saw on social media and they've never liked my post. Yeah. That is a story I will tell on every single episode, I'm sure. So keep posting that content and including the personal pieces that invite a different type of engagement. And then the other thing that reminds me too, for where you're listening, it may feel very doable for you to like add your own face or, add your humanity to your content. And that may feel like, whoa, that's a huge shift from where we've been with our brand. That feels like I can't turn the ship that fast. A great example I would give you here is just the way you deliver content can feel more personal and human. So the example is I have a company in Denver who are electricians and like construction management. And a lot of their content has been like thought leadership, like you said, designed graphics with thoughts and ideas and offers and downloads. And then every so often I've started to add in just like pictures from their job site that their team is taking, where it just feels like, oh, this is a picture on an iPhone. It is not styled. It is not filtered. And those get a lot more likes. And so even just to swing the pendulum that way, where the content feels like, oh, this is like a photo dump. I've seen this before. That is not a huge shift to be like, oh, they have to have their whole team and have their face here and all of that. And it still performs on a human level.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that example. And to follow kind of that sort of logic, I love that this became an episode of how to still promote your product in a human-centered way, which I absolutely love. I think that example is very interesting because you can still give value that's directed towards your service, your product, like a kind of what you do in a way that's packaged more personally, like visually. So I love that example of like, maybe you have a carousel of, on the job photos or photos like around your office or, whatever, but now in the caption, instead of like having, a text on a graphic that you're sharing to social, now in the caption, you can just talk about the difference that you've made for a client recently or, something like that. And it's another great way that you're still leading with that human side and visually are, kind of engaging people human to human, but just kind of changing where we're kind of, pushing our product, pushing our service without being like overbearing about it.
Yeah. I do certainly still think there is room in the conversation too, for times where the post can literally be nothing about your product, literally be nothing about your services. I have an author who we have posts where she goes and hangs out with her mother who lives in an assisted living center, and she's hilarious. And she's like her whole brand in herself. Nothing about her books, nothing about anything. It's just fun and silly and heartwarming. And people know her. They're like, oh, I know your mom. Like, I feel like I trust you. And so I did want to just kind of make that caveat too, that I love the mixture of both. I think in a world, there is plenty of good to be said for AI. And I'm not somebody who will say I never use it, but I do think as consumers, we're just trying and looking for what's real right now, because everything we're like, is that real? Is that not? And so to be able to mix that humanity even into your more promotional offers, just I think is performing better on a lot of platforms right now. And at the same time, it's great and valuable and necessary, I would say, to even have content that's just about you or your life experience or building trust with your audience that has nothing to do with your product or service.
Yeah, I love it. For the listener, who is struggling to think of ways, like we just gave a lot of great examples of, add your face, add videos, those kinds of things. But to kind of, break it down maybe a little bit more too, for somebody who is struggling to like think through, how can I talk about what I do personally? Like it feels just like it feels very different to me of like how I can kind of present this, because maybe it's technical, or maybe it's, like very like client centered, and like all we have really to talk about are like our clients and like their stories, or, maybe they just have like a really big team. So it's like, what does it even mean to incorporate human to human, connection when like, who do we choose? Like those kinds of things. For the client that's maybe more focused on the what and the kind of like offers, the promotions, what would be maybe the first step that they can take to kind of come back towards that center place?
Yeah. Two things come to mind. You said if you're focused on the what, then I would just say, can you lean more into the how and the why? Sometimes the how feels like a great first step because it's still connected to what you do and what you offer. Yeah. You're just giving that like, ooh, I'm not watching you through a screen now. I'm in the room with you. And when I'm in the room with you, I feel like I know you better. I can trust you better. So can you bring them into the process? Can you bring them into like a meeting or a picture in your warehouse, or, something like that, where you feel like I'm kind of seeing what maybe not everybody gets to see. Or the why of the reason behind what you do, connect to your heart, to some passion, to some reason. And then I would also kind of trace the data. I'm such a nerd with analytics, but can you go back and look at maybe your past 6 months and see what, like you said, with the Dairy Queen example, can you just look at what has performed highest? And that might even give you some clues into, like, I can give you ideas, but I don't know your audience and your brand. And so if you can go look at your posts and see what your specific audience is connecting with, interacting with, it may give you some breadcrumbs or some clues into, oh, that did well. That makes me think of this, this, and this. Gives you a place to start.
I love it. I love where this conversation went and all of your answers to those questions. And I feel like there are hopefully some interesting kind of thoughts starting to turn for each of our listeners, wherever they are at on that spectrum. And I love the idea that you kind of presented of some of us might lean actually more in the opposite direction of like being too scared to talk about our product or our service, and being like, it's way easier to just post pictures of my children or something, totally. Like just talk about like family. And then on the other side, like really leaning towards just, talking about what we do, how you can take a step with us, and really finding the balance there. So thank you for a great conversation. And to all of our listeners, we will see you right back here on the next episode of Marketing Should Be Fun.